But let's use a metaphor. Let's imagine that there is a war breaks out, and somewhere on the planet are the manufacturers of robotic soldiers. And these robotic soldiers are out there, and they are fighting the cause of those who manufactured them. Now, we can all get down in the trenches and in the front lines, and we can fight these robots. And we can do it, and we can risk our lives, and we can risk our health, and we can be head to head with the robots. But as you win one battle against the robots, they send out another lot that they've just created back at the factory. So you have to fight the battle again. And this is what we see with the protectors and the protesters who are fighting and protesting in areas and to protect the land, such as at the Dakota Access protest site. Now, even if they win this, within a few months there'll be another area on the planet where they need to go and start this again. If you come to the metaphor, there'll be another set of robot soldiers put out into the world. So how do you stop the battle? Well, you need to find out where the factory is. You need to find the location where those robot soldiers are coming, instead of getting in the trenches and in the front lines and killing each wave that comes to you. Because so long as they can keep producing, then they're going to be able to keep sending them. So when you locate the factory, let's say the factory is a hidden location, and you stop the factory itself, then you stop the production of the robots. You no longer need to fight these battles. If these robots are hell-bent on destroying the environment, and the only way you can think to stop them is to fight them in the trenches, and they can keep being reproduced at the factory from a secret location, you're not going to win. You're not going to win. They're going to keep overwhelming you and overwhelming you. But if you find the location of the factory and you take out the factory, you've won.
To the east and west, to the north and south. Warrior, warrior, gather every child. Mama needs you now. Warrior, warrior, the suits are moving in just to get that.
Hey guys, I want to talk about something which everybody is kind of talking about online at the moment, and it's the North Dakota Access Pipeline. Now, I completely 100% stand with the protesters who prefer to be named protectors, which they are, protectors of the environment and what they are doing. And I have the utmost respect and love, and I wish them well in what they're continuing to do. If I wasn't here in Tanzania, then I'd go and do it myself. I truly would. If it was close by here, I'd quite happily stand at something like this. Now, I am fully behind everything that's going on, and I think part of the popularity, because there are other protests and protector movements all over the planet, but I think part of the popularity, which is a good thing, is the romance of the fact that it's a Native American stand against the big corporations. Now, those of us with an education know that one of the largest genocides in history were our ancestors who stole America from the Northern Americans. Millions died. And America's constitution and America's laws have not served what were the indigenous people to that continent over the years, and this is what the battle we see. Many of us know about that injustice, and this injustice continues with what we see now. And I love that people are getting behind that, and the Native American teachings and way have had a huge impact on me as a human being. I think many of you know this. And last year we farmed on a huge scale using the principles of the Hopi tribe, which is one of the larger and more well-known tribes of the Native Americas. And we used their farming principles here in East Africa to provide food for the children that we care for and the community at large, which are in turn tribes in themselves that have been fragmented and pushed into this Western way of life. Now, with everything that's going on, most persons who watch me know that I am often delving into the mystic side of things, but there are prophecies. First of all, I want to speak on this on a more matter-of-fact and factual sense of things, about who are trying to build this pipeline and what we should do to try and stop this, how you can do it at home. You don't have to be out there on the front line in front of the riot police with your hand up to fight this. You can fight this from home, but you've got to get educated to do it. But to pull back, there are prophecies inside of the Native American tribes, which I've had a huge interest in, a great many of them. And Spirit showed me, God showed me, my intuitive body showed me, angels showed me, however you want to term it, this prophecy many years ago. But after I'd came to Tanzania, it was the first time I was introduced to a prophecy by the Hopi, which sticks with me a lot. Now, it's the prophecy of the blue star Kachina, and the 8th stage of the prophecy is that the youth of the current global system will grow their hair long and go to learn from the remaining indigenous tribes people on the planet. And there I was, one such person who fitted such a description, living with the tribes people of Tanzania and learning from them. That's why I've built an off-the-grid community that is in line with nature. We use farming principles from other tribal aspects. As I say, I copied the Hopi style over here in Tanzania. But we learn from the tribes people with regards to, I see how things are managed for the more indigenous tribes that are remaining, such as the Maasai, etc. So they have an impact on me, because a lot of the prophecies were very accurate. Now, the Lakota Sioux tribe have a prophecy of a black snake bringing great destruction across the land. And naturally, when someone's laying an oil pipeline, you could affix that to there, which I find deeply interesting. You could also affix it to motorways, freeways, roads, however you want to word it, as a black snake that's bringing destruction across the land. But there are prophecies in there that could be tied in with what's going on. And it is a travesty what's happening. It's the same old story, and it's the same old problem. It's big business versus the people. It's big business versus things which have moral meaning to others. It's got nothing to do with profit for people. It's about moral stance, moral meaning, and sacred beliefs, which doesn't come into the word profit. It never will. It never has. Now, the problem we have when you look at these situations is that people say, yeah, it's a big oil company, big corporations, down with the big corporations. But this is too... what's the word? It's too wishy-washy, you would say, in the north of England. It's not accurate enough to just say it's a big oil company and leave it at that. Now, let me use a metaphor. You have all of these companies. You have all of these oil companies all over the planet. And everyone can take a stand against them and the different things they're doing, like this pipeline, and they could go to another area next year and stand against them for doing fracking, or so on and so forth. But let's use a metaphor. Let's imagine that there is a war breaks out, and somewhere on the planet are the manufacturers of robotic soldiers. And these robotic soldiers are out there, and they are fighting the cause of those who manufactured them. Now, we can all get down in the trenches and in the front lines, and we can fight these robots, and we can do it, and we can risk our lives, and we can risk our health, and we can be head to head with the robots. But as you win one battle against the robots, they send out another lot that they've just created back at the factory. So you have to fight the battle again. And this is what we see with the protectors and the protesters who are fighting and protesting in areas and to protect the land, such as at the Dakota Access protest site. Now, even if they win this, within a few months there'll be another area on the planet where they need to go and start this again. if you come to the metaphor, there'll be another set of robot soldiers put out into the world. So how do you stop the battle? Well, you need to find out where the factory is. You need to find the location where those robot soldiers are coming, instead of getting in the trenches and in the front lines and killing each wave that comes to you. Because so long as they can keep producing, then they're going to be able to keep sending them. So when you locate the factory, let's say the factory is a hidden location, and you stop the factory itself, then you stop the production of the robots. You no longer need to fight these battles. If these robots are hell-bent on destroying the environment, and the only way you can think to stop them is to fight them in the trenches, and they can keep being reproduced at the factory from a secret location, you're not going to win. You're not going to win. They're going to keep overwhelming you and overwhelming you. But if you find the location of the factory and you take out the factory, you've won. Now, it might take a lot of effort to find. It might take a lot of effort to take it out, but you will win if you take it out. And this analogy is what we are seeing on the planet. People are saying, it's big oil company, they've done this, and they go and stand against them, and the oil company might change their mind and go and do it somewhere else. But nobody really knows, who are these big oil companies? Who's funding them? And Energy Transfer are the people behind the North Dakota Access Pipeline. Now, they are invested in by, as always, very familiar names. There is a first of all, there's one name, as many of you know, I always throw this name around, but Rothschild, would you believe, in a small way, it would seem on paper, is invested in Energy Transfer. Energy Transfer Equity. He's invested in there. So Rothschild is the man who owns the IMF. So this is a family with power. This is a family with massive levels of power on the planet. Financial power, and because you have financial power, you then have military power. Simple as that. But if you look away from that, you have Jeffries Group. Now, Jeffries Group would seem that it's kind of a competitor of Rothschild, but they were bought by Leucadia. And Leucadia is working hand in hand with some of its sub-projects solely with the Rothschild dynasty. Not only that, but the Rothschild dynasty financially advises Leucadia. So they financially advise the company that owns the biggest share in the North Dakota Access Pipeline. Wherever there's some sort of injustice on the planet, that family will be there. They are there. And it just makes you wonder that what is possessing these people, because they have no empathy. They have the traits of a psychopath. Psychopaths have no empathy. They have no feeling for others. And this is what we are seeing. But they have ultimate power. And this is why a president will bow down to them. They're starting to drill against military orders at the pipeline site. So they're bringing in the drilling equipment against military orders. The American military have said you shouldn't do that. So against orders, they've brought the equipment ready to drill. How can they do that? Well, that's because Rothschild can say to the president, I'm doing what I want. Don't forget I create your money. Don't forget I have the Federal Reserve. I have the World Bank. Don't forget I have financial control over everything pretty much on this planet. So if I want to do this, I'm going to do it. You find a way to make the legislation work. You find a way to make the media work. You find a way to get the people to bow down. I'm doing this. And that's what we're seeing. This is what we're seeing. But the problem is everyone's standing up and saying, stop the big oil corporation, but you don't know who it is. The people don't know who the big oil corporation is. The problem lay inside these families, inside these psychotic, elitist families who every time there is something shady going on the planet, they are there. Every time you have a shady character on the planet who is a bit of a hypocrite and so on, they are connected to them. Every single time. Every single time. And if you don't understand mathematical probability, I suggest you go back to school and suss it out for yourself and understand what is going on. If they are linked to something, that something they are linked to is not good for us. End of story. And this is religiously so in history. We can see it from the start of them funding the both same side of every war, pretty much, starting with the Napoleonic War, where they got mega rich by funding Napoleon and Wellington's forces. Now, I'm not going to pin it all on the Rothschilds. There are other familiar characters investing in there, but they're all part of that same bloodline and conglomerate of cronies who are just hell-bent on profits and draining the planet. It's almost as if they are possessed by an energy which is completely opposite to most of us who love the environment and want to care for it. So, these guys are your problem at hand. These are the foe that you face, but nobody knows that they're out there. Everyone just says big corporations, big oil. You need to know who you're talking about when you say big corporations and big oil. You need to know who these people are. You need to know where the factory is that's producing those robots. Because when you find out where the factory is and you take out the factory, then you stand a chance at putting an end to all of this immorality and environmental destruction in the name of profit and control and power. Now, the question then is, how do you take out the factory? Well, numbers. The more people who know where the factory is, the more chance you have at taking it out. The more people who know where it's at and where its location is, the more people can come upon it and insist that it becomes transparent. What is going on inside your walls? Are you the place that's producing this enemy that we keep having to fight? And when enough numbers know about it, then the factory has no choice. It has to give itself over because the people can see what is going on inside, and it's not like they can open their doors when so many eyes and minds are looking at it and let the next batch of robots out without you knowing that they're the ones letting the batch of robots out that you're fighting. It's an analogy, yeah? I'm not saying they're building robots, but what I mean is if everybody's looking at the Rothschild dynasty and their finances and these other families, the Rockefellers, and the list is endless, guys, the list is endless, then Sorrow would be another one. The list is endless, like I say, but if everyone was looking there and everyone insisted upon transparency through the law and through the government, then through a non-corrupted government, a government that's not in the pockets of them, then they would undoubtedly be unable to maneuver because too many people would see them. They would be unable to secretly send out their robots to fight you. They couldn't do it. They couldn't set up another oil company in another name. They couldn't make another purchase in another name and commit another heinous crime against the environment and the people because everyone would see them coming.
And west, to the north and south. Warrior, warrior, gather every tribe. Mama needs you now. Warrior, warrior, the suits are moving in just to get their dollar. Treat is being broken, no respect the honor.